Welcome everyone to the Independent Academy show where we study and interview with people that are working, creating, and developing new technologies that will allow us to become more independent. Today we have an amazing guest. We have Albert, the CEO of the Bitcoin Startup Labs. Now, Albert, this is the second time you come to our show. It's the first with the new format. But just in case people didn't catch the first interview that we did together, maybe we can start with a little bio of who you are, what is Bitcoin Startup Labs, and we can take it from there.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Thomas. Thanks again for putting this great show together. And it's an honor to be on your show for the second time. A quick bios on myself. I started my career off in the Silicon Valley as a software engineer, and then I hit the dot-com crash. And our VC funding got pulled, and then the startup went down. So I went to China in 2001, became a serial entrepreneur, and a lot of ups and downs. The, probably nothing too unlike most founders starting off. And so in 2014, I found my life's calling, which is to help people turn their ideas into pre-seed investment companies. And then so I went on a quest for about 7.5 years there. We ran 21 cohorts, becoming the longest running pre-accelerator in all of China. And then something happened. At the time, it was uh, very unpleasant. But then, as they say, as one door of opportunity closes, another one opens, right? So what happened was uh, in 2021, 2022, China came out with a new policy where if you're not Chinese, you can't own equity in those startups, in those innovation sectors. And what happened was, I had some companies that we hard to money with equity in some companies and sectors that were off limits for foreigners, basically. Right. So I had to give up my equity, and that was a painful experience I mentioned, and that's when the light bulb for Bitcoin went off for me. Right. So it took me when was that, about 2022. Friends trying to get me into it in 2009, 2010. I thought it was a scam, honestly, but yeah, I had to eat my words. The light bulb went off for self sovereignty and what Bitcoin meant. So in 2022, I did like pivot all into Bitcoin. I moved back to the States, and between then and now, we've become the leading pre-accelerator on Bitcoin. We're about to finish our third cohort and about to start our fourth. That's the rough bios for me.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it takes a moment like what you described, where suddenly the government just takes your equity. Or in Argentina, we had a bunch of times where they just go into our bank and they take our money, and then you realize, like, yeah, maybe something like Bitcoin does make sense.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah,
Exactly, exactly.
yeah. Yeah, we're looking now at the Bitcoin Startup Labs website, and I think it will be very interesting for people to know more about it. And I can see here that you have a new cohort starting soon. So let's dive into it. What is Bitcoin Startup Labs?
Yeah, good question. So Bitcoin Startup Lab is sort of like a boot camp, right? So I want to just make it very clear that we're not an accelerator. We work with accelerators, and almost 10 accelerators and about 80 pre-seed investors will come to our demo day on March 15th. So like our positioning in the Bitcoin ecosystem is fairly unique, because up to date, I believe that we're still the only pre-accelerator. And when I say pre-accelerator, I understand that there's many different definitions for that. So our definition of that is 99% of the founders that come to us, they're at the idea stage. 2/3 are solo founders looking for co-founders, and the other 1/3, they might have two people, but there's no business entity established. They're also at the idea stage. I mean, they could be a serial founder. They could be the last project didn't work out, and now they want to start a new project on Bitcoin. They could be coming from Ethereum, but the common denominator is that they're all starting at idea stage, and almost everyone's looking for co-founders. and all of them are looking to build something that could potentially be game changing. Okay, and because of that, they want to raise pre-seed capital. So we have a scientific method. As I mentioned, we did 21 cohorts before in China. So we're including the Bitcoin cohorts. We're about 25. So we found out the science. There's a science to building a pre-seed investment ready startup. And so the program takes people from the idea stage all the way up. Every week we have a different module that we found that every single startup has to do if they want to get their startup pre-seed investment ready. So over 12 weeks, we believe in learn by doing. So they learn, but they also apply it. They have to actually do it and and um, and create that part of their startup until at the end of the 12 weeks, if they're able to do all the assignments and build an investment ready startup, then they get a go demo day. That's roughly in a nutshell what we do. So it's very systematic. It's very collaborative. We have about 80 to 100 mentors who are either serial entrepreneurs or they're pre-seed investors or they're both. Uh, come teach our classes. Yep. That
Yeah,
that
I think
goes.
that's yeah, no, it's incredible, and it's something that I think is very needed. Like, a lot of people have the idea, but getting started, it's not easy. It's not straightforward. Especially Bitcoin is still relatively a new space. Like, yeah, the asset has maybe 14 years by now, but it's still relatively new. It's relatively new technology, and at the same time, like, all the stuff that's been built on Bitcoin, that is very new, especially now, right? There seems to be a lot more opportunities for Bitcoin builders, right? Okay, I think Albert might have must be experiencing some internet issues. I'm sure he'll join us. But yes, here in the website you can see
Yep. Sorry about
all
that. I'm
the
back. That
yeah.
was the
All right, perfect.
yeah. I'm back. I'm good now. Thanks.
So yeah, I was I don't know if you heard the question, but I was explaining that now, especially now, something like Bitcoin Startup Labs makes a lot of sense, because not only we're talking about a new asset, Bitcoin only has 14 years of life, but all the stuff that is allowing builders to create their business or their projects in Bitcoin, that's very new. And right now, it seems like we're in an inflection point where there's a lot more stuff that people are being able to build on Bitcoin than before. So something like Bitcoin Startup Labs to help them guide them through that, I think is extremely valuable.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, although Bitcoin is what 14, 15 years now, but it is still relatively new in the sense that still only a small percentage of the global population are using it. And like you said, even the programmability on Bitcoin, right? Like Bitcoin being something in addition to just a store of value. This just happened roughly in the last 12 months. Um, I guess you could, strictly speaking, maybe 24 months, but back then all those applications were not competitive with the rest of Web3. But now we're finally getting to a level where we could build startups and useful applications that can rival Ethereum and other blockchains, but on the best blockchain now, best crypto. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yes. At least nobody can, like, I know in crypto people are always arguing and always saying that my chain is better than yours. But nobody can deny that Bitcoin has the most liquidity. I mean, you combine all the other cryptos together, and Bitcoin is still bigger, and it has the most decentralized network, at least in terms of nodes. Those are just things that people cannot argue against. It's just objective facts. So if you are going to build something, why not build in the network that has the most liquidity, the most users, and is the most decentralized and secure? I think that's a very easy pitch to get builders on Bitcoin. I am
Yeah. I mean, yeah, to build on what you said,
Mm.
I believe there's two biggest fights for people's freedom globally, and one I think everyone knows, is to have a decentralized and permissionless financial ecosystem. That's the first one. But the second one that is about to happen, I would say, maybe in a year's, a lot more people are going to know about it. But it's decentralized AI. And if you
Mm.
really want to make AI decentralized, then what blockchain do you have to link it to? In my opinion, it's Bitcoin, because it is the most decentralized. And just imagine what would happen if AI was centralized, that we would lose like so many of our freedoms. So in my opinion, the two biggest fights for humankind's freedom is going to happen on Bitcoin. It's about finances, and it's about decentralized AI.
Yeah, I am a huge like I am looking very closely to the AI space, and I am waiting when AI and Bitcoin start to combine, because I believe they're the two biggest technology trends and the ones that have the most transformative power. So when they overlap, I think there's going to be like a huge opportunity for whoever manages to build a successful business in that intersection.
Yeah, no,
Are you? Are you?
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask if through your work in Bitcoin Startup Labs, you are seeing people aiming at that intersection of those two technologies, or what are you seeing there?
Yeah, so let me give you some background before I answer that. So the intersection of Bitcoin and AI was the question. So, I think it'll have more flavor if I share with you. Last year, we did a nonprofit hackathon called the Bitcoin Olympics Hackathon, and in March, April, it became the first Ordinals hackathon ever globally. But we did something very special, which is we invited Rootstock and Stacks and a couple other Bitcoin technologies to one hackathon, because what I noticed in 2022 is that the few players that were in Bitcoin, they tended to sort of stay in their own tribe, and we thought that was it would be better if people from different technology stacks could cross pollinate uh, in the name of better innovation, right? Creating better products for people to use on Bitcoin. And at that time, there's only five different tech stacks. As I mentioned, the ones I just mentioned just now, and there was maybe like, I don't know, I can't even remember. Maybe there's like 3 AI projects. Okay, out of maybe like maybe not even 3, maybe two AI projects out of 25 submissions. And then fast forward half a year later, we did the same Bitcoin Olympics hackathon. Again, this is to help you know foster and keep this new innovative Bitcoin Renaissance culture that has emerged on Bitcoin because of ordinals, and etc. Right, and this time, right, 15 different Bitcoin technology stacks joined to contribute, and I think there's maybe 60 something submissions. Almost one third of them were AI. Almost one third were AI. So from like 2 to 3 to like 20 something. So almost 10x in 6 months. Now, most of those um, were just like hackathon projects. So it's more like hacking, right? Something together. But if you look at like real conversion to startups creating something valuable for users. In our most recent cohort, we're right in the middle of it. The demo day is March 15th. We have 2 AI projects out of about 30, almost 40 teams, right? So it's beginning. Like, people are really looking to build real stuff on it. And in addition, we also uh, beefed up our mentor network. So this time we had 2 AI, two founders with AI experience, one on the application side and one building a decentralized AI blockchain network, right? And they want to link it to Bitcoin. Next cohort, we're going to have roughly uh, between 8 and 10 AI mentors So it's going to take up about 10% of the speaking space next time, and then we'll keep playing with the ratio as the market heats up for decentralized AI. But right now, it's still super early days. It's still super early days. I mean, we still have a ton of work to build on Bitcoin for infrastructure. Like even without the AI, right? We have so many different apps that need to be built on Bitcoin for ordinals, for different types of tokens. Um, also, you mentioned that Bitcoin is the most decentralized. I believe that because it is the most decentralized, it's also the most secure blockchain. So when these financial institutions want to start building things right on Bitcoin, I believe that or in the Web3 or crypto space, Bitcoin is going to be the first choice. Right.
Yes, yes.
Back to
Also,
you.
like yeah, it has that that recognition, and it has been running for the longest time. So that also gives it gives it more weight. I think like a lot of times projects end up choosing other chains mainly because of the limitations that Bitcoin has by design, which is one of the things that makes it that it can be so decentralized, is that you cannot do a lot of scripting within Bitcoin. But once you start factoring in things like rollups and maybe what BM is trying to do, side chains, there's a lot of things that can potentially expand what Bitcoin can do without sacrificing the decentralization and the keeping the main chain simple, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's fascinating to see like the growth of the AI focused projects within Bitcoin. Is the first time that I heard about AI blockchain network tied to Bitcoin. I don't know if that project has a name or something, someone I can get in touch with, but I would very much love to speak with them as well. Seems like a fascinating topic.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, there are just a few right now. I'm happy to share those with you
Wonderful,
on your
wonderful. Yes.
DM.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask about the Startup Lab token that you guys launched with the use of one of these new rollups, the one created by Bison Labs. I have the tab here because I think it's a very historic moment, to launch a token on one of these new rollups. I just want to know about the experience, about the thought process on why you chose Bison Labs. What is this new rollup, and what are the plans for this for this token? I think it's something fascinating and a historic milestone in the history of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for bringing this up, Thomas. Yeah, I think but I think okay. So I think we should come up with a new term for Bitcoin L2s, right? Because if you look at the technology, it's not as integrated as say Ethereum L2. But I think it's not really about the technology. It's more about what the user needs. Maybe we should call these S2s. S as in scaling solution, like the second scaling solution. I think that might be more accurate, um, because there are so many things that we can't do on Bitcoin layer one because of to keep the security. There's the programmability is limited, right? The attack surface area is limited, and rightly so. Otherwise, Bitcoin wouldn't be worth so much, right? And I think people have found out by now trading ordinals and other digital assets on Bitcoin layer one can become very expensive. It takes a long time to transact, also because of the security feature, but it could, get to last year, it got over 100. Sometimes it got over 100 equivalent, in dollars, right? This year, I believe that peak times might even get to 1,000. I wouldn't be surprised to see that, right? So then, and Bitcoin is not like Ethereum where it upgrades quickly because it has to preserve its security. So it's not like Ethereum where Ethereum kept on going through upgrades and the throughput kept on going up, right? So the need for L2s are blurred, but on Bitcoin it's really really obvious that we need L2s. But in this case, I would call it an S2, right? Something that is the closest thing to get to a L2, um, while preserving most of the security. But you have less than 1 second transaction times and less than 1 cent per transaction, right? Um, and so Bison Labs is, you asked me the question why we launched them. Well, they pioneer. First of all, they're pioneers. They even in March, they actually made the first last year in March. They made the first integration of ZK and Ordinals. So they were the first ones to do that, and it was and I think at the time that project was called BTC Domains, and they made 10 Bitcoin from that. But they left that company, right? It was, I think it's an innovation arm of Filecoin or something. But they left that company, joined our program. Was just an idea at that time. They didn't know that they were going to do roll up. They were going to do some kind of DeFi, but they realized that the infrastructure was missing, and that's when they built what I call S2s. A scaling solution. So, like a scaling solution too, right? And this is when they created the first working ZK rollup on Bitcoin, or as close as you get to it. Right? And they're actually live in Q4 last year. So they a lot of people claim to be the first. They're actually the first. They're actually the first. They're actually the first. And then yeah, so we launched our token on top of their platform to show that it works. And yeah, and that's why we pick Bison. They're very innovative. They're homegrown from the Bitcoin Startup Lab. They you know they broke the record for fundraising before. It was hard the first time we did it, in 2022. It was 12 months before the first startup raised capital in our first cohort. They're in the second cohort. From the beginning of the cohort to raising capital is just 3.5 months. Yeah, and then about 2 months after that, they had closed around. So really strong team, really pioneering, and that's why we launched the lab token there. I think you have a second layer, right? Second question there about the um the lab token.
Yeah, no, yes.
You want to talk about?
First, yeah, I wanted to ask specifically about the token and what the thought behind it was, and what are you aiming to accomplish with it. But it's fascinating, the like you're showing how in every cohort the time between idea to getting funding and getting going and starting building, like it keeps getting shorter and shorter. And that's fascinating, and it shows, like you use the phrase Bitcoin Renaissance, and I think we're very much seeing the early stages of that. Like I'm sure not too far from now we're going to see all the startups deliver their products, and suddenly what users can use Bitcoin for is going to expand massively, and we're seeing
Yeah.
the first stages of this.
Look,
It's a wild thing to watch in real time.
it is a wild thing. Let me share some more stats. So as I mentioned, the
Mm.
first cohort was what first team to get the first check was 12 months. I think it was Liquidium, and then Bison did it in 3.5 months from starting a cohort. They're still applying to accelerators, right? But they already finished their, like a pre-seed round of I think it's 1.5 million. And then in this cohort, the fastest time for the first check is 2 months. The program's not even over. So that just shows like how much more activity is going on in Bitcoin. And I'll share with you, how the investors have grown in the Bitcoin ecosystem through the Bitcoin Startup Lab. So in the first cohort, we could only invite 8 pre-accelerators. I'm sorry, 8 pre-seed investors and 1 accelerator to our demo day. Fast forward to this demo day on March 15th, we have almost 10 accelerators. That's a 10x on accelerators joining our demo day, and about 80 investors, 80 pre-seed investors. So it's also 10x, right? Now, that's not the only thing that has been growing and most of those investors at this demo day, I would say a little over half are actually from Ethereum or other chains. So it's very interesting how even half a year ago they didn't want to touch Bitcoin with a 10-foot pole. They didn't believe in it, but now like the narrative has completely changed. Now on top of that, the first cohort we had Ethereum founders applying to our program, but every time we call them up for an interview, they're trying to convince us to do the pre-accelerator in Ethereum or Near or somewhere else. It's not Bitcoin, So actually, the first cohort, we didn't even have anybody that was outside of Bitcoin. But then the second cohort, we got a few people. I want to say like 7 or 8. It was under 10 people, right? Under 10 out of like maybe 60 something founders. But this time we have what, 26 out of 78. So it went from 0% to about 12% to now 1/3 of our cohort are founders from outside of Bitcoin. And if we look at the application numbers for this Bitcoin halving 420 cohort, April 20th cohort, it looks like it's going to be almost 50% now. So there's a lot more talent coming to Bitcoin. So people are joining, our friends from other chains are joining Bitcoin to build on Bitcoin. So it's very exciting times. Very exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting that, yeah, this thought that I hear repeated a lot, that people say, the altcoins can work almost as a test net for Bitcoin.
Yeah. That's what they're saying, and
Yeah,
I think they might be right. I mean, it's still early days, but it does seem that way, right? It does seem that way.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
interesting, and it's great that people were able to go out and explore the different ecosystems, and now they can bring those ideas back and see how they can maybe make it work. Or like, it's still very early, and like you said, there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built for, I think, to see the same level of dApps that we can find on Ethereum or other chains. But just the fact that you're pointing out that you are seeing a lot more people from the other ecosystems coming into Bitcoin, that is a great sign for the ecosystem itself, and it
yeah,
shows
they
that
see the
Bitcoin is
opportunity.
attracting this talent.
Yeah, they see that there's real programmability and there's real users, right? Another one
Mm.
of our teams, um, they they're L2 agnostic, but they end up starting on Stacks. And when they first started on Stacks, it was like what, 5,000 users on Stacks, right? And then just on a testnet now they have 160,000 users, and most of these are from outside of Bitcoin. And this is a team that's coming from Ethereum.
Mm.
They have a lot of experience, right? So this is going to continue, right? There's going to be strong teams coming from Ethereum, and they can build on Rootstock, they can build on Bison, wherever. It doesn't matter where they build, but they're going to bring all the users from outside of Bitcoin. It's amazing what's happening.
Yes. I really, I don't know if I said it in this episode, but I really like your scaling solution agnosticism. Like, you're not trying to pick which scaling solution is going to be the winner, but you're trying to just help all of them develop. That's something that I try to do with my channel as well. I don't focus on one single ecosystem, but for me, anything that is seeking to add value to Bitcoin and bring more users, I think it's welcome. At the end of the day, all the rollups and scaling solutions, they're using Bitcoin as a settlement, which means they're adding value to the main chain. So whichever scaling solution wins, it benefits the others as well. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I
And there's a lot of
yeah
space for more multiple scaling solutions.
yeah I want to see more collaboration between the different Bitcoin ecosystems than competition, which is not often the case. But that's what I try to push for.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
we can work
hmm,
on the Bitcoin Olympics together this year. We're just gonna have one because
hmm.
it's an incredible amount of work. But we're probably gonna have it over the summertime. But we should keep it going. This time, there's already like 40 different technology providers that want to get involved. So yeah, it's gonna be some work. So we're just gonna do
Wow,
it once a year, but it is completely agnostic for any kind. It could be L1, it could be Rootstock, it could be like one of these new S2s, whatever, right? Invite them all and bring more people into Bitcoin.
absolutely. I think that should be the end goal for all the teams. Just bring more people into Bitcoin, make the network
Yeah,
bigger, stronger.
and it's the only responsible thing to do, because if you're gonna if we're gonna build a decentralized financial ecosystem and have the world's population use it, then it's our social responsibility to build it on the most secure chain, right? So I just in terms of like, I don't want to talk too much about ethics, but at least like a conscience, right? I like that's the only thing that that would allow me to sleep at night, right?
Mhm. Yeah. So just quickly for the audience, you mentioned Liquidium, which is another interesting project that we did an interview with them. It's pretty wild. It allows you to lock your ordinals and borrow Bitcoin against it, which is super interesting that you're able to do this in the main chain using DLCs, which is another technology that is giving Bitcoin more use cases. It's not really helping it scale because all the activity is happening on the layer one, which, like you said, is gonna drive the fees. It's gonna, if we get the world population to use Bitcoin, then those kind of use cases might encounter some problems, but they might need to migrate to a scaling solution on a different layer.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
yeah,
they're
if we can,
homegrown from
yeah,
Liquidium is also one of our. They started the idea. They start with a different idea, just like Bison. They also 99% of the teams that come to us, they have a different idea. But then because we like some of our past speakers like Domo or Casey or the creators of protocols, etc. Right? So they get new ideas and they pivot their idea into something that could become investment ready, right? And yeah, if you look at the APYs, you can almost double your Bitcoin, or sometimes, and you could over double your Bitcoin in 1 year if you keep reinvesting or reloaning out the money, right? And even if the loan defaults, you're usually getting the ordinal at below the market value. So you go and you can sell it, and in that case, you'd be actually making more than the interest, right? So the loan almost never defaults because no one wants to give up the ordinals. I mean, they've done a great job curating the blue chips and the ones with the strongest community. So it's a pretty it's a really great business. Really
yeah, yeah,
really valuable.
yeah. I really like how clean and easy they made the UI and like the user experience. It's super streamlined. It seems like they are very consumer focused, which is
Yeah,
something that
Robin's really
unfortunately.
smart. Yeah, really consumer focused. I use this all the time. You know,
Mm,
I don't have a lot of time trading, so I lock it up. I lend out my Bitcoin, and then 7 days to 14 days later, I get my Bitcoin back plus some more Bitcoin as the interest, right? And then I put all that back into another loan, right? And so I don't really have to do much. It's pretty convenient.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, and it gives you more use cases for Bitcoin, which is always great because all that attracts users. All the transfers that you do in the network, they go to the Bitcoin miners. They help the ecosystem, develop this internal Bitcoin economy, which is, again, it's something that we're seeing being built in real time. And even not too long ago, they were you, they were not ordinals was not a thing, and now not only they are a thing, not only people are buying and selling them, but now you also have a marketplace that you can use them as collateral, and it's all on chain. And these things are just, it's so quick the way the ecosystem is growing constantly. It's fascinating.
Yes, it's
Yes.
fascinating.
So yeah, I wanna ask you about the lab token.
All right.
So you can maybe give some history on like what the thought process was, why you guys decided to release it, and maybe the plans that you have for it, just so people get an idea of what this token is.
All right, so that's a great question. Um, so the token was originally envisioned to help drive the growth of the community, and so as you know, we launched it as a test run, in December, but then we closed it off in January. And the reason is this, right? We were very excited at first because we had like 3,000 signups in less than 10 days. You know how it goes, right? When when you launch a token, right? And and what happened was we went through the 3,000 because we asked people to give us their LinkedIn's because it was a curated drop. It wasn't we're not giving to everyone. It's for innovators. And what happened was there's about 300 people that our community introduced to us, and those are very high quality. But after that, we found out that the remaining like majority were just people who want to get the
Mm.
token and sell it, right? They were not really innovators. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think everyone has a role to play in the ecosystem, but for us, we are in the business of helping founders turn their ideas into investment ready startups and helping investors save a lot of time by giving them the best projects, right? And then we hope that this speeds up the innovation cycle and velocity on Bitcoin so we could get closer and faster to a sustainable Bitcoin economy. So day traders, etc., although they're very important for our ecosystem, it's not really like we don't have a service for them. It's the companies we
Mm.
service have a service for them, right? So it was one step removed, and so we end up discontinuing it because it took more time to filter through all the non-innovators, the non-founders, um, you know, than it was worth, right? So we are. It was a good experiment though. We ended up giving out, I don't know, like 30,000 tokens, mostly to our community and to people that was referred by community. So what that has the learnings that we're not going to give up though, right? This is just the first iteration. So what I think moving forward, the perhaps the token will be given to people that go through our program, right? And they hit certain
Mm.
milestones, right? And then they have the token, and if they do a successful referral and that person builds an investment or a startup and they get funding, then they get tokens for that referral fee, right? And then so maybe the proper way to do is incentivize our users, right? Just like sort of how a DeFi project or consumer facing project, they reward them for, like, if it's DeFi, we'll reward you for trading on our platform. They want to incentivize that action, right? So maybe our incentive mechanism is, hey, if you do well in the program, you get tokens. If you refer another innovator to build something very useful or a game changer on Bitcoin, you get tokens. So maybe we follow the same model, and we
Mm.
incentivize our direct users and incentivize them to bring on more innovators to help us bring us closer to a sustainable Bitcoin economy. So that's stay tuned for round two. But it's not gonna be soon. It'll probably be at least a month to 2 months out, yeah, before we try the second version. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it was a great experiment. These kind of things, like, you have to test them in order to learn the necessary things to make it work. I For me, like, it seems like it's the same problem that almost all the protocols that want to launch their own token experience. So having hands-on experience on that, I think, is going to be very valuable for your team, for the Bitcoin Startup Labs, as well, when you need to advise other people on how to launch their own token. Like, the
Yeah,
ability to
exactly.
be able, yeah, the ability to launch your own token for a project. Like, I know tokens a lot of times they have a bad reputation, especially in the more Bitcoin maxi crowd. But the reality is that it is a great tool for incentivizing people, to attract people. Um, the reality is that most people, if you have the same product and one rewards you with a token and the other one doesn't, people are gonna go for the one that gives you the token. So it has that driving factor for it. But that what you experience about, like, people trying to game the system to earn the tokens so they could sell them, and they're not really adding value to the ecosystem that you're trying to build, but they're extracting value. And that is something that happens with every airdrop. Every DeFi protocol has that problem that they give tokens out, people get them, they sell them, the price of the token goes down, and then the farmers go somewhere else. That is a constant problem in the ecosystem. And again, the tool itself, the token, it's a very powerful tool. It's just a matter of learning how to use it effectively and reward the people that are actually invested in the endeavor, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, it's what makes crypto, and I mean, my comment on these Bitcoin, I would call them like Puritan maxis. They're almost toxic to a point, because let's not forget that Bitcoin, everyone models the tokenomics after Bitcoin, right? That's like the mother token, and so that's where all the inspiration came from. Now, I think what they're not happy about is, sometimes people abuse it, and I agree with that part. If it's a rug, or sometimes it's not easy to get right, because this is not something that we learned in school, or it's not something that we experience in Web 2 either. So there is a lot of experimentation. I think a lot of the rugs out there are not, of course there are scam artists out there. I'm cognizant of that, but a lot of these rugs, I think they had good intentions at the beginning, but they just executed really bad. So it looks like a rug, right? So, and that's like, as a combined effect, yeah, sometimes it gives it a bad name, but there, eventually, like, I mean, how does society move forward? It's messy. We have to experiment and learn from our mistakes, and we'll do better next time, right? I mean, no one's perfect. So I think, yeah, it's, let's be honest. I mean, Ordinals and then BRC20s made Bitcoin sexy again, right? And it triggered the Bitcoin renaissance, right? Attracting a lot more capital, users, innovators. I mean, I think it was a jumpstart we needed. I mean, you've been here for a while. I mean, I remember when I joined into the Bitcoin ecosystem in 2022. Oh man, it was painful. It was painful, man.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah. So
yeah,
it's, yeah. Back to
yeah.
you.
I think the ecosystem was needing like a spark, and it was Ordinals, it was BRC20s, it was the ability to create different kinds of assets within Bitcoin that create that spark. But there was a part of the community that was waiting for something like this to happen, to burst out. And before, it was most of the narratives and most of the conversations were driven by more of the what we would call Bitcoin maxis now, which are people that are mostly focused on sound finance, fix the money, fix the world, which is something that I resonate a lot with. But I don't think both things are mutually exclusive. Whereas most of the people that have that mindset, they do believe that they contradict, and that's why they don't like it. To me, anything that helps Bitcoin grow is going to help it become better money, and anything that drives the earnings for the miners. If the miners make more money, then Bitcoin becomes more secure, and that means it's better money. And yes, it means the fees go up as well, which just means like we need to develop better scaling solutions, and that was always the case. Like there was never a scenario in which Bitcoin can withstand the activity of the entire economy without any scaling solution. The layer one was never gonna be the solution for that. So
Yeah, you're
to
totally
me,
right.
yeah, just bring all these developers in, generate all this activity, get the miners paid, and let's build the solutions that we need. And we're seeing, like, I was super excited about the Lightning Network when it came out. Now we're seeing, like, it's been 8 years. There's a lot of really good things you can do on Lightning. You can't do everything on Lightning. Like, we need different solutions. We need people building different ideas, and we need experiments. We need people like Bitcoin Startup Labs trying to create a token on the first rollup that is trying to use CK technology on Bitcoin. That's wild technology. Like, yes, we need people to go and test it out. and learn and then teach others so they can do it better and just move forward in a like you said, in a very messy way, but that's the way you continue forward. I don't see another way.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Totally agree.
Yeah, so I don't know. Have you? I put some tabs here of some stuff that I wanted to ask, and I don't know how familiar you're with this, but it's something that's been in the news recently, and I wanted to hear your perspective.
Sure.
Because I see a lot of new projects that are coming out that are creating a lot of really good buzz for the Bitcoin ecosystem. I don't know if you heard about Omega. They just raised $6 million.
Oh no, actually this is the first time. Thanks for sharing. I've heard about
All right.
20 something, like let's call them S2s, all right. Heard of 20 something S2s. So yeah, I mean it's great to see another one. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Apparently, what they're doing is that they want to create it's almost like a sidechain or a rollup where you can deposit your Bitcoin, and then they do like automated trading on different chains. So it's not on Bitcoin, but you get the yield directed to you in Bitcoin. So it is like an interesting way of generating activity and earnings on a different chain, but you're locking it in Bitcoin and you're keeping your funds in Bitcoin. You don't have to go out into the other chain to do your activity. So I just saw this news yesterday, and yeah, I thought it was interesting. It's an interesting new use case. And I also took I don't know if you heard of Citria. I don't know how you pronounce it. Again, you're saying they all claim to be the first rollup, but it's another CK rollup that is apparently going to be launched soon. And that's something interesting for people to keep their eye out for.
I mean, the first live one has already been claimed by Bison, to the best of my knowledge. And again, I mean, strictly speaking, none of these are actually like the Ethereum version of the ZK rollup. But seeing from like user demand, we don't need something like Ethereum. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but just to be accurate, we should be calling them S2s, like scaling solution twos, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
I like that you name, because you're right. Like as soon as you use the word rollup, people just imagine it's what Ethereum is doing on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the same, because the base layer is just not comparable. Yeah.
It's not comparable. It's
even,
not comparable.
Yeah. Even now, like Ethereum is doing a new upgrade to create some. I was reading about it. I'm not an expert in the Ethereum ecosystem, but the new upgrade is gonna create it's like more block space, but reserved only for layer 2s, so that they can get cheaper settlement, so they themselves can charge cheaper fees. And that is something that the teams working on Bitcoin, they can never expect the Bitcoin main layer to adapt to their needs. Whereas in Ethereum, we still see the layer 1 is still changing to accommodate to the needs of the layer 2s. And that in Bitcoin, that just doesn't happen.
And I don't think it should happen. I don't think, because it's, I mean, we still have to preserve the security and the soundness of Bitcoin, right? So I do agree that we should be more conservative with the Bitcoin base layer, and then be more experimental with things on top of it, like on metal protocols or on S2s, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, otherwise, like, why do people want to hold Bitcoin anymore? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Bitcoin has that value proposition that none of the other chains give you. It's like I can just keep my Bitcoin.
Not even close.
Yeah, so I can keep my Bitcoin in the main chain. I can run a node in my house, and I can instantly verify from the latest transaction all the way to the Genesis block. And that is one of Bitcoin's core value propositions. That as every time you start to meddle with how Bitcoin works and you try to give it more functionality, you run the risk of losing that. And that's something that it shouldn't never be lost.
Yes.
So I don't know if you have anything else that you wanna comment about maybe the next cohort. I'm sure you wanna invite people to participate. We're gonna send the links in the description of this video and everything. And I don't know if there's anything else that you wanna end with or direct people towards.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, we're the only pretty excited right now on Bitcoin that focuses on helping founders at the idea stage, right? Again, 2/3 of the founders coming to us are solo founders, and roughly 2/3 graduating from our program could find a co-founder. It's we have a very unique service, and we'd love to support more innovators building cool stuff on Bitcoin. So if you guys have been thinking about something, the best time, I know it sounds cliche, to do something is actually right now. The longer we think about things, the market changes, we begin to doubt ourselves, right? The best way is just to get started. And in this community, and with our scientific method, you have a super structured method. It's like going to gym, but if you try to work it by yourself, you're probably not going to stick with it for very long, right? Or you'll probably hurt yourself lifting the weights. But for us, we have coaches, we have the scientific method down, we have a community. So it's still very hard. Okay, it's a very challenging process, right? You'll definitely you'll transform into a better version of yourself as a founder. But for those who could get through it, it becomes a very fulfilling process. And it's the timing is right now before the Bitcoin halving. Right now, we have what? We
Yeah.
have 70 something students in this cohort, but we have about 80 pre-seed investors coming to demo day. Right? It's not going to always be like that. It's going to be a day where there are a lot more founders than investors. So get in while it's still blue ocean.
Yes, definitely. And like we were talking before, all this messy experimentation. Like if you go and you participate in something like this, and you get direct mentorship from people that already went through the process, you can save yourself a lot of that painful experimentation, because you can just get information of the people that experience that firsthand, and they will tell you like, don't do that, do this. And yeah, it saves you. Like we want to go through the experimental process as a whole. We don't want every single individual to have to go through it alone and experience the same mistakes and problems as the other guys. Like that's
Like
not
90% of mistakes could be avoided. I mean, I would say it's a mistake is not really a mistake if we could get back up from it, right? So without the coaching, without the scientific method and tools, without the mentors, what happens is mistakes become very costly. Like they will take a lot more time to make the same mistake, or take a lot more money, right? Or waste a lot more money making that mistake. But with the right training, which we have, you spend only a fraction of the time making the mistake. So you're not wasting time. In fact, it becomes a good investment for you to make that mistake so you can learn from it, right? And our program is zero cost, right? It's zero cost upfront. It's our start method is like a basically near zero cost to get traction, launch onto testnet, and get pre-seed investment and get into accelerator, right? Of course, there's a cost of time, but I'm talking about like cash, right? So we're pretty proud of the system that we developed over. This is the 10th year we're doing this, so that also makes us one of the longest running teams, if not the longest running team, doing pre-accelerators.
Yeah.
So
No,
maybe
it's an
yeah.
incredible opportunity for everyone who has this idea and wants to get going. Like you said, it's the best time. Like before the bull market starts, before the Bitcoin halving, that's when you need to start laying the foundations. When all that gets going, you're in a good place to capitalize on that.
Yeah,
and
you're
searches people.
exactly. And Thomas, it's a great thing that you're doing for the Bitcoin ecosystem, running the show. If there's any teams going through our program, or any teams that we might know, like you see from the mentors, and you want to bring them on the show, let me know. I'm happy to make that connection. We need more people like you doing what you do. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, and I will definitely take you up on that, because I am a very curious person, and everything that's been built on Bitcoin fascinates me, and I want to talk with everyone. So I will
Wonderful,
definitely,
wonderful.
definitely, yes.
I'm glad. I'm glad
Um,
to hear. Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm not just saying that, right? So definitely just DM me or call me, whatever. Like, we'll set some things up.
all right, cool, cool. Yes, I was going to do one with the Bison Labs team, and unfortunately
Hmm.
there was an emergency, so we had to postpone it. But I'm very, very interested in talking with them. First CK rollup on Bitcoin. Like, if that does not interest you, I don't know what's going through your mind. Like, to me, it's like,
Yeah,
yes, I want to talk with
yeah. Interview
with those
them.
guys.
They're amazing team. The we also have a new team called Arch Network out of this cohort that
Mm.
is building a decentralized node community. So to create trustless smart contracts to service specific Bitcoin L1 dApps.
Oh, wow.
That's exciting. Yeah. So smart contracts are coming to Bitcoin. We have the blur for Ordinals. That's going to be built on. It's being built on Bison right now. The testnet is launching for very soon. They're called Ordinal Hive. That's going to change the way people trade Ordinals. It's like is Bison. I think is less than 1 cent right now to make a transaction, and less than 1 second.
Wow.
So that's going to really change the dynamics of trading Ordinals. So that's another one. But we have so many other great teams that scored. I'd love to introduce to you more of them to you. And we also, any team from before, happy to introduce those to, or any of the mentors or investors. I'm sure they'd love to
Yes, yes, yes.
love to be a part of what you're doing. We're all after the same thing. We want to bring Bitcoin to the masses and create a sustainable Bitcoin economy.
Hmm. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And yeah, if what I'm doing can help them get more visibility, then I am, of course, more than happy to contribute in the way that I can. I think if we all contribute in the way that, from the space that everybody can, then we can create a very powerful ecosystem that's just gonna, like you showed us in this talk, it's gonna keep attracting attention and developers, and it's gonna just move a lot faster. And the faster it grows, the better it's gonna be for everyone. The more people we can get into Bitcoin, the better it's gonna be for the entire network.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. That's a strong point to end this on. Thanks so much
Yes.
again for putting this together, Thomas.
No worries. Thank you, Albert, for joining me for the second time. It's always great to have you as someone that is working directly with all these teams. I always leave my conversations with you with a long list of stuff that I want to research more and learn more. And I'm a very curious person, so I always love to have these kinds of conversations and to keep expanding my knowledge in the space. Thank you, everyone that joined us live. Thank you, all of you that are watching the recordings, and I will start chopping this into a lot of clips and stuff so we can keep getting people aware of Bitcoin Startup Labs and redirect them to where they can become a part of the next cohort. Happy to do this again, maybe after the next cohort, or whenever there's a big
Yeah,
announcement,
let's do it third
something
time.
to communicate. All right,
Looking forward to it.
likewise.
Great.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Enjoy.